Hello, my friends. This is Rob. I go by RZ on the Panini apps. My channel is RZ Digital Sports, and I collect digital sports cards. And the most common question I get asked when people get new to this is, well, what cards should I collect? There's a lot of people that don't know football or basketball well, or maybe they're really good at baseball and just don't know the sports, or they're not familiar with the brands. So this is a kind of a primer to give you an idea of what you might look to collect. Again, the very simple answer is collect the cards that you want, but I'm going to try to give you a little bit more direction. Hopefully it will help you out and give you ideas at least. Again, this is going to be on the Panini Blitz app for the NFL and the Panini Dunk app for the NBA. If you like collecting baseball cards, Topps has some apps, but I generally don't like those apps, so I don't use those apps. I'm primarily focusing on football and basketball. Okay, so let's get started. So here are the ways people collect cards in general, both physical and digital cards. It's usually they collect specific players. They like positions. A lot of people, for example, in the NFL like to collect quarterbacks. Teams is common. I think almost anybody who collects cards has a favorite team and tends to at least collect a lot of a team. I'm a Bears Bulls fan. I have a ton of Bears cards. So, most people are like that. Although I am a card collector and I have a lot of every single player from not every single player, but I have a lot of players from different teams. I'm not just a team collector. Some people like to collect specific brands or collections. That includes things like parallels and rainbows. Limited number cards are super important in any collection, but with digital, I think is even more important. Specialty cards such as patch cards, memorabilia cards, autographs. Those in digital, it's a little bit different, and I'll talk about that. And then we'll talk a little bit about young players versus vintage players. Okay, so first of all, when you're talking about players, I'm going to go over the NFL and NBA on some of this and talk a little about players, rookies, and things like that. But I normally, with the NFL, tend to put more value on quarterbacks than receivers, then running backs, then it's kind of like pass rushers. And it's not exactly in that order, but just as a general rule, if I thought two players were generally the same quality, I would opt to have a receiver over a running back. I tend to have more quarterbacks than anything, and then receivers, I have more receivers than anything. The reason why, first of all, quarterback's pretty easy to know. They're the big position, one of the most important positions in any sport. So they're popular. People like collecting quarterbacks, so there's always demand. And then people that don't collect cards, they generally, if your dad is going to buy a son a card and he doesn't know anything about sports, he usually at least knows who Tom Brady is. So, or he'll know that Carson Wentz is the quarterback of the Eagles, and if he lives in Philly, he'll buy his son a Carson Wentz card. So those are like so there's always going to be more demand for quarterbacks. That's pretty obvious. With wide receivers and running backs, I tend to like wide receivers because it's a little bit easier to identify whether a guy is good and speculate on him, and usually once a wide receiver determines that he's a good player and capable of putting up good numbers, he'll generally be good. With running backs, it can be weird. The offensive line, the offense, the coach has a lot to do with it. Plus, with running backs, they tend to get hurt a lot. And guys can look great. Like even like Todd Gurley looked like the best running back in the league last year. And then this year he was coming off an injury. Didn't look the same. Definitely kind of fell back. So running backs can go up and down. And generally because it's a position where running backs get hit a lot, they have a shorter shelf life. So you see running backs can be like incredible for 3 years. And then all of a sudden they just really fall off quick and don't play well. So there's a little bit less risk in wide receiver. But I wouldn't say that I'm always super picky about that. But just in general, I tend to be more comfortable holding wide receiver cards for value. And whether or not you're going to talk about with digital cards having value in dollar value or value in Panini coins, because right now you can't really sell digital cards for real money, but still value is value. And if I buy a card for Panini coins, I want to buy low and sell it for more coins in the future so that I can buy other cards, right? So value is value. And this list here is just players I think are kind of towards the top that I'm interested in. So maybe you could use that to give you an idea if you don't know. But obviously, you can look at stats and other information and other sports card places. Anything in physical cards when it comes down to players is very likely going to be similar in digital. Okay. In the NBA, I tend to have a slight interest in wings, guards, point guards, primary ball handlers. Is really the best way to describe it, because there are forwards, even power forwards, even like Kawhi, who initiate the offense. This means that they're the guy dribbling, passing, driving to the basket. They're getting dunks and rebounds and assists and putting up points. Those guys are always going to be at the top 10 players. But it just seems like more of those are going to be guards and maybe small forwards or the three position wing players. So again, you'll see some of the top guys on the left. This by no means, none of these player lists are some sort of ranking. They're just guys that I generally like and look at. They're kind of towards the top. But in the NBA, I don't think it's as big of a difference. In the end, it's just, are they a good basketball player? They want to collect the guys that are good at basketball. I think are going to be good for a long time. All right, rookies. Okay, yeah. So rookies. Here's the NBA rookies. Thought I skipped the NFL. You want to pay attention, especially in the digital apps. Really, they're so the 2015, 2016 cards are pretty sparse. You can't get them in the store anymore. They don't sell them. There's not a lot of people that held on to them. The app changed. So you're not going to see as many of those. You will see some 2017. So it's good to know the 2017 rookies. But right now they're selling a ton of they're still selling 2018 packs and, of course, the current year 2019 packs. So, and you'll see more of those cards available in auction. Knowing these rookies is important. Rookie cards are always going to be more valuable in any sports card or any sport. So knowing the rookies is important. And a lot of times you're speculating on whether a guy is going to be good. Now, in 2018, I mean, Luka and Trey are going to be good. I don't think these guys are playing great. Better than most you would ever expect rookie and second year players to play. Those cards are valuable, already are. They're sought after. People are looking for them, especially Luka. The other guys listed here are just some of the higher draft picks and players that have shown some signs of being good players. It's always, in the NBA, especially the young players, it can sometimes take a time before guys play well. Giannis wasn't like doing what he's doing now his first year in the NBA. So, it'll take guys will all of a sudden just take big jumps, and you kind of have to watch and speculate. In the NBA right now, in the 2019 class, you kind of have Zion and Morant up there at the top, and I think the rest of these guys are unknowns. None of the others are putting up really monster stats right now, which is pretty common for rookies. So I don't know if any of these other guys. There's a lot of guys on this list that may not be on this list that I think might be good to speculate on. But Zion, I think just by watching him, looks like he's going to be a really good player. He's pretty hyped up. His cards are pretty valuable. Number one pick. He's a rare athlete. He just started playing now, and they got a lot of scorers on the Pelicans, so he hasn't put up like monster games, but he looks the part to me. I mean, the dude is big, like just strong and wide, and he doesn't look like he should be as quick and athletic as he is. So I think I like his chances of being the best rookie in this class. But Morant's also really doesn't look good. It looked the part as a point guard, so I like him. He's going to be a primary ball handler. So those would be guys that I like the most. But that's not news. Anybody paying attention to the NBA knows that. But some of the other players, do your research and speculate on them. In the NFL, 2018. Lamar Jackson was a guy, and he's a great case to look at because, he got drafted. He wasn't a high first round. I think he was a second round pick if I remember right, or he was really high late first. So he kind of fell a little bit. He wasn't as hyped up as Mayfield and Darnold and Josh Allen. And there were some people didn't think he would be able to pass the ball well in the NFL, and there was question of whether you can win with a running quarterback, and he obviously proved you can. So like so there were some people buying him last year, but then after last season, like Lamar Jackson cards weren't really that valuable. He didn't play his first year, but everybody knew he was going to start. I loaded up on Lamar Jackson cards, and I'm getting a payoff on it now because his cards are really valuable. Saquon is someone that he's come in the league, was really good, but again, as I talk about rookies, he got injured, didn't have as good a year. Still, Saquon's pretty valuable, and I think he's going to have a pretty good career. He's still plenty young enough to be collecting his cards. The other quarterbacks have been shown some signs of being good, but are still unknown. I like picking up Dallas Cowboys players like Gallup and some of these other receivers and running backs that are young or showing some talent would be guys you would look at from the 2018 class. 2019, I think, is a little bit harder to tell. I mean, I didn't think anybody really stood out as being great. Kyler Murray, I think, was Rookie of the Year, and Jacobs really did well. I thought Danny Dimes looked good. Minshew came out of nowhere. Might end up being a good starter in the NFL. I thought you saw some good signs out of all these guys. None of the AJ Brown had a 1,000-yard season, but he only had 50 catches, so I don't think he's going to be able to sustain a 20-yard average. But we'll see. I think McLaurin is going to be in an opportunity to do well because I think he's kind of their only guy, and he really played well. And Metcalf has Wilson, so yeah, it's always harder with receivers to determine who's going to be the best. And I think you look at Nick Bosa being a really high pick, being on a Super Bowl team, and also being very productive. I mean, if you're going to go after a pass rusher, then someone like him might be good. Although I think his cards might be a little overvalued now, so he might be a little bit on the sell high because it's hard. Like pass rushers can be really good, but like they can go from having like a 15 sack season to having just like a decent 8-9 sack season, kind of like the way Khalil Mack didn't have his best season, but he wasn't bad. So the hype's a little down after he got traded. Being a Bears fan and watching this, now would be a time to try to grab Khalil Mack cards. He all of a sudden has a 14, 15 sack season and wins an defensive MVP. His cards will shoot back up. So, those are some of the things you think about when you're deciding whether you're going to collect a player. Teams, I'm just going to go over this quick. The teams that everybody follows, I'm going to have a little bit of preference if I'm going outside of teams that I like, that my favorite teams. I'm going to kind of go towards some of these teams because they have such a big fan base and their cards are more valuable. If the players are the same on the Bengals, you can say AJ Green and Amari Cooper are similar talents. There will be way more demand for Amari Cooper because he's a Cowboy. It's just the way it is. So Cowboys, Packers, Cowboys, American team. They've got a lot of fans. Packers have a national fan base. Of course, the New York, Chicago, LA teams are going to have their big markets. The Patriots because they've won so much, and Boston's a big market. Steelers are an old school franchise. I like the Chiefs just because I expect them to be winning a lot, and because of how good Mahomes is. And Seattle's just they have a dedicated fan base, and Wilson to play for a while. So that's what I look at. Young teams, good teams that are young. Philly and Baltimore have really strong fan bases and good teams. So I like those guys, and it's the same. With Luka being young, I think the Mavericks have a chance to be competitive for long into the future. I mean, the Lakers always have great fans. Right now, they have a good team, and the Clippers have the Clippers have kind of always been behind the Lakers in terms of fans, I guess, and market, but they have a really good team now, so I'm not afraid to go after Clippers cards. And again, Philadelphia, Boston, Chicago, New York, big markets, whether or not they're good, but Philly and Boston are obviously good, and all those teams have a pedigree of having championship teams and good teams. So even with the Bulls and Knicks not being really good lately, they're just big enough market teams that people are going to. I mean, Bulls have a lot of national fans just because of how good they were in the 90s. So anyway, that's what that's generally what I look at with teams. I'm just going to put a slight preference to those players if I'm looking to collect for value. All right. Now, brands, I just kind of looked at these brands in terms of how I think of them, and there's some that are probably in between. There's kind of like the regular brands, and you'll notice that those brands of Panini, and these are the NFL ones. Some of them are going to be the same. You'll see similar brand with NBA and NFL, but each of them has a few differences. And you'll notice that like with the regular brands, most of these are like you'll see them for 400, 500 coins in the store. The Elements, Luminance, Certified, Score, Absolute. Um, some of them like Absolute, I think are like more in Score are more on the lower end, whereas like Luminance is kind of get towards the higher end of regular brands. And then you're going to have brands that are they're more of the 600 to 1,000 coins a pack. Those are the middle brands, and then you've got these specialty brands that come out that may not be. Some of these aren't available in physical cards, but if you've traded physical cards, then you'll know and have heard of some of these brands. The premium brands are the ones where the card packs are really expensive. Normally, with the premium brands, when you buy the pack, you get a bunch of numbered cards, especially low number cards like Flawless and National Treasures. You're talking about with Flawless, almost I think every card in the pack is no more than limited to 25. So you'll get one of ones, one of threes, limited to 5, limited to 10, 15, and 20. It might go up to 25. I know in the older Flawless they go up to 25, but the recent Flawless pack, or at least the 2018 pack, I think is limited to 20, but I can't remember. So Flawless is that's up there. They're very sought after. People know they're going to be limited cards. National Treasures, Impeccable, Immaculate, that's just the same. I mean, really Flawless. I think Flawless and National Treasure are the big one. There's a Panini One brand. I don't particularly like the style of it, but it is limited. Same with Spectra. They're more limited. And Gold Standard is kind of like right at the edge. They're a little bit more like a moderate brand, but they have when you buy a pack of Gold Standard, they have common cards in there, but they have a ton of different types of inserts and sub brands, and they do have a lot of low numbered cards, so they're kind of right on that edge of between moderate and premium. But the premium, I really do like to collect as many premium brands as I can. I think they hold value better. In the Dunk, it's very much the same, except there's some obvious brands like Court Kings that are related to basketball, and with premium brands, you have Opulence and Dominion that are a little bit different. A lot like Golds, instead of Gold Standard, they have those. Like Opulence and Dominion and Gold Standard are kind of the same, similar types. Again, I'm just generalizing a bit here too, but those would be the brands. If you want to go after brands that are likely to have more value, then shade more towards moderate and premium. But like, if I see an encased 1 of 5 that look like encased, I think have really nice design cards. Even if it's a moderate brand, it's a encased 1 of 5, and I like the player, and it's a good price, I buy it. It doesn't have to be a premium brand. Okay, other value factors. Limited cards in digital, or limited cards are always valuable in any sort of physical card trading or any sort of trading, whether it's sports or Pokemon. If it's a limited card, it's going to have value. In digital, it's super important. Why? Because I could literally make millions of copies of a digital card that's not numbered in a millisecond using software, because all you're doing is copying the card. There may be a little bit more to it, but realistically, there's just nothing. It takes nothing to duplicate a digital card. On a printed card, you have to design it, get it into the print shop, run it through the printer, cut it, package it. So there's a natural limit to how many cards they're going to make. But in digital, with limited cards being so important, I primarily want to really am looking almost entirely at trying to collect limited cards in the digital sports card world. It's just that important, because at least you can see that there's a limit of how many, if there's only 100, there should be any 100. And I think if Panini ever breaks that, then they're just going to ruin their brand and ruin the whole app. And whether people complain about liking the app or not, I think they've clearly invested a lot of time and money in the app, and I don't think they want to do that. That would be really dumb. I really hope that they don't do that. And so far, it looks like the numbered cards are pretty clearly numbered, and they don't make more numbered cards, at least not on purpose. So anyway, definitely looking for numbered limited cards. I have a tendency to value younger players over older players, recent stars over vintage stars, only because I really do think that the apps and digital assets are going to be more heavily valued by younger people. It's still fairly new, but younger people are a little bit more open to like putting a value on a digital asset, whether it's a Fortnite skin or a sword in an MMO game or something related to an app or even like a digital asset like Bitcoin. That seems it's very much younger generation that tends to be open to that, whereas I think the older, it's not to say that I'm older, I'm in my 40s, so it's not to say that people my age or older aren't going to value digital sports cards. It's just that I think it would be less, and because of that I think more people are going to put a value on players that are playing now. Like if you're 17 years old and you're really watching Mahomes or even Cortland Sutton, and he ends up developing into a great player, and then all of a sudden you get a job and you start collect sports cards and start collecting digital cards, and you have a little money, you're probably going to be looking at the players you've been watching for the last 7 or 8 years. You're not as likely to go after Andre Johnson that doesn't play anymore, even though he was a good player 10 years ago. So keep that in mind. I at least that's the way I look at it. There's always going to be people that want the vintage stars. I will still pay good money for a Butkus card because I'm a Bears fan. So you'll still get that. I just don't. I think I still think that the value will be more in the recent players. Patch cards and autograph cards, okay, in digital world, I think they have slightly more value just because the design and just the fact that it's an autograph, but I don't think it necessarily is. It's not as much as like a physical card where it is a real patch that someone wore that you have possession of, a real autograph that player signed. That has so much more authenticity right now, especially the way these digital cards are made, that I don't find that to be, they're not that valuable. Maybe only because of the design of the card. So let's just say that I was going to buy a card from a player that's worth $50. I'm just going to say it's Lamar Jackson. If it's an autograph card, that card might be worth $150, $300 to $300 just because it has an autograph. If I was going to buy a digital Lamar Jackson card, say it's limited to 100, and I was going to pay 10,000 coins for. If it was an autograph card, I might pay 15,000. I might pay I might pay a little bit more. I'm not going to pay 50,000, 60,000 just because it has an autograph, because it doesn't. It's only more about the design at that point, because it's just basically a digital image of an autograph. So I don't put that much value on those, other than there's familiarity with. There are some people I think that collect physical sports cards that like a specific patch card or brand. They might also want to collect the same digital version of that card, so keep that in mind. There's specialty cards that you see a lot more in digital versus physical world. I mean, some you see in the physical world, but in digital, especially things like the instant cards, the rookie instants, where the nice thing about digital is they can take a picture on Sunday, and then by next Wednesday they have a full set of instant cards that are documenting like records that were broke that week, or a player's first touchdown catch or touchdown pass. Those cards are a little bit different than what you would see with physical cards. They can't take a picture and print the cards and put them in a box that fast. So I do think that there might be a little bit of value in the specialty cards going forward, but that's really speculation. It's just something to consider. Okay, so that's it. The only thing I would add in here is that on the apps, you can play games in the digital cards, and for current cards, there's also multipliers that can have an impact on near-term value. It will not likely have an impact on future value, because right now you can only use current year cards to play in these DFS style contests that use the multiplier. But it's also something to consider. You might see a current card that's really valued, and the multiplier can be a big reason. But otherwise, you can check me out, RZ, on the apps. You can trade with me, send me a message if you've got questions. Obviously, comment below. Follow me on Twitter. I usually post about DFS on Twitter, and more about my cards on Instagram. So, okay, I hope you guys enjoy this. Take care, and good luck out there.